In this film, we celebrate the remarkable reign of King Hussein. Soldier, statesman, national figurehead, peacemaker, and family man.
One of the deepest relationships I've ever had outside of my own family. He was a great man. I mean, the greatest man I think I've ever met.
He's admired so much because he was passionate about peace in the Middle East.
Some men are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. I would place Hussein bin Talal in the second category, someone who achieved greatness.
Lots of people of Jordan were lucky to have him as king, and that the world was lucky to have him as a peacemaker.
King Hussein was a devoted father. He played an active role in his children's lives long before it was in vogue. He juggled his duties at home and abroad to spend time with his family.
He was extremely kind and he was very easy to be around, and he was really someone that you could talk to, as I said, about anything. I mean, you'd feel that he was your best friend as well as your father, and you could discuss. I mean, from when we were little, you could walk in on him any time. Whenever you wanted to see him, he'd just show up.
The king was a rock of stability for both his family and the people of Jordan.
I think one always felt reassured when he was around because he had this kind of presence that things would be all right. And if there was ever a crisis when he was out of the country, as soon as he'd come back, everyone would, relax. It was sort of like a security blanket almost.
The king's kindness and generosity extended well beyond his family.
I think he liked human beings, but he liked people. He liked doing good for people. And it was... sometimes you'd see things on the news, and even if you were abroad, some case of someone who did an operation, and you think, if something doesn't happen, well, I can always call my father and he'll try and sort it out, because he was really someone who was willing to help in an individual way and interested in human beings.
King Hussein and his brothers and sister had a very close bond, made even more important because of the absence of their father from an early point in their lives.
He really, regarded me as his little sister. He was very protective and extremely kind to me always, and very supportive. So, there was a mix of, he was the father figure to me, but he was also my big brother.
Despite the pressures of being head of state and having a young family himself, the king always found time to be with his sister, especially at some of the most important times of her life. In 1963, Princess Basma left Jordan for Benenden, an English public school.
Well, I was barely 12. And it was a big step. So, it was my brother who took me on that first day. And I remember, a lot of words of encouragement and jokes and, just trying to put me at ease. He came to see me a while later. A wonderful tea had been laid on for us, sandwiches and scones and chocolate biscuits, and, that wasn't an everyday occurrence. So I said, do you think we can get hold of some of these things because my friends would love some? I said, yeah, of course. So his pockets were bulging and he was protecting them with his arms, but in them was all sorts of goodies that I later was able to share. So, of course, he was an absolute hero to them as well.
King Hussein would also be on hand, quite literally, to help out the people of Jordan with their everyday problems.
In the 60s, we used to have quite heavy snowfalls, and that was before the time of global warming. And, you know, he would always be in a kind of sort of 4x4 or Jeep, and he'd be there helping everyone dig them out. And so, you know, it became a well-known thing, and I think people almost, you know, enjoyed or relished the idea of getting stuck because maybe they'd be rescued by their king.
King Hussein had many passions in his life, but flying was very special for him.
He was an excellent pilot. Flying gave him a sense of freedom, kind of feeling of self-reliance and freedom that he rarely necessarily enjoyed in many other contexts.
For most of his reign, King Hussein was handling and resolving conflicts not just at home, but also in the region. Princess Basma admired the qualities that enabled him to bring about peace.
The way he was able to bring people together and the way they respected and felt they trusted him. Very rarely would I say that he consciously had to negotiate his principles or mediate his principles. And I think people caught on that, you know, and realized that he was a figure to be trusted. And so he was able to be very useful with international leaders of differing views. You know, when King Hussein said something, they were prepared to listen.
Sir Jackie Stewart and King Hussein were drawn together by their passion for cars and motor racing.
It was a friendship that started very modestly. Over the years, became a really deep friendship. We did a lot of motoring together. He invited me more than once to Jordan when we drove up the hill climb that he was very good at. And he was a very, very talented driver. And it was difficult for me to keep up with him. Just to match his time was quite a problem.
The king was a skilled racing driver, and Sir Jackie arranged for him to drive the then-leading Formula One car.
And he got into the car. He was thrilled, of course, to be able to drive the Benetton. And he went up and down and up and down, and he was doing over 200 miles an hour at the end of the thing. And Queen Noor was with us, and she said, "Jackie, is this all right?" And I said, "He's only going to do four laps." He came down to the bottom, turned the car around and shot off again. 5 laps, 6 laps, 7, and Queen Noor said, "Jackie, I think it's got to stop." I mean, for me it was a royal stop. We put out the sign "in," a big arrow, no response. And then I told him we were going to run out of petrol. That was my only excuse. But he, you know, when he took his helmet off, that smile, he had a greater smile than any other man I've ever met. It was just, his whole face opened up, and he was just full of joy.
Over the years, Sir Jackie made many visits to King Hussein in Jordan.
I'll never forget but he was driving a Mercedes. We stopped at a set of traffic lights, and there was a very old gentleman standing to wait to get across. And he suddenly, "My God, this is my king." And he came up to look at the car and get a closer look, and the police were getting slightly uncomfortable. The next thing, His Majesty opens the door. Now, the man was thrilled to bits. I mean, it's the biggest day of his life. So it was just one of these small things that make a big difference. And that's part of the man.
In modern times, King Hussein was unique. He was a leader who both strode the international stage and was very close to the people of Jordan.
I mean, the affection in which the king was held reached the point of reverence. The only difference being they found their king very approachable. People would refer to him as Ya Hussein, you know, by his first name. They spoke of their king as a very respected member of their society, but someone they could go to, talk to. They all had stories about their meetings with the king, and it was something that you could tell had really touched them in their personal lives and bound them in no small way.
The king's reign was shaped by the personal tragedy of witnessing his grandfather's assassination at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
The assassination of King Abdullah was a formative experience for the 15-year-old boy who was present with his grandfather in military uniform, and he had a medal, and a bullet ricocheted off the medal and saved his life. He saw only the soldiers stayed, caught and shot the assassin, and he himself became a soldier. He went to Sandhurst, and the Jordanian army was and remained the mainstay of the monarchy.
King Hussein reigned during a tumultuous time in the Middle East. Despite this, he was steadfast in delivering peace for Jordan.
In a very turbulent era in the region, Jordan remained an island of stability and of decency.
Since President Clinton was first elected, he was tireless in his efforts to bring peace to the Middle East. A crucial partner on the journey was King Hussein.
We saw the world the same way. We weren't threatened by people who were different from us. Something which one of the surahs of the Quran instructs us to do, that we should not hate one another, but that we should come to know one another and learn from one another. He was like that, and always fascinating. I never was with him, and I didn't feel like I learned something.
President Clinton believes King Hussein's personal qualities were crucial to bringing peace to the region.
Well, first of all, everyone trusted him and respected him. So Rabin trusted him, Peres trusted him, Netanyahu trusted him. Everybody in Israel is the only peace agreement they ever made where everybody in Israel was for it.
The king also played a major role in one of the world's most intractable conflicts. President Clinton asked for his help to break the deadlock between the Israelis and Palestinians during the Wye River talks. The king agreed, even though he was gravely ill.
And everyone knew he was ill, so they didn't have to worry about whether he was playing some long game or... It's often like a mystery of mirrors in the Middle East, as you know.
A man long devoted to the cause of peace and whose personal stature as a peacemaker and dramatic appearance and presentation at a key moment inspired the progress and the success of these talks, His Majesty King Hussein of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. We're grateful to you, Your Majesty, for your...
So there was a lot of regard for him, a lot of respect for the fact that he'd been able to make peace with Israel and still deal with the tensions within his country and keep his alliances beyond it. With just a little time left to live, would not want to squander it in a fool's errand and wouldn't be out there posturing. He just wanted to do what was right. So they finally made a deal the next day, which handed over a substantial chunk of land in the West Bank, and I believe that it was the last substantial handover of land that the Palestinians had. I think basically everything they've got today is what they had after Wye River, thanks in no small measure to King Hussein.
Throughout the many years of King Hussein's reign, he had the opportunity to meet the most prominent global leaders of the second half of the 20th century. The king was a unique presence on the world stage, working with many generations of leaders over 5 decades. He was a consummate diplomat who built relationships across the continents and was respected throughout the world. Prime Minister John Major and King Hussein forged a warm friendship against a backdrop of the First Gulf War and violence in Northern Ireland.
Well, he spent 40 years of his life seeking peace in the Middle East. As I came to know him in the 1990s, I was seeking a peace in Northern Ireland. If you are to pursue peace successfully, you need to think yourself into the minds of those people with whom you need to deal. Once you understand their position, you're in a better position to counter it and advance your own case. And the king understood that.
When it comes to diplomatic achievements, much of the focus has been concentrated on the Jordan-Israel peace treaty. But Sir John believes the king's earlier successes also deserve recognition.
I remember just before I became Foreign Secretary in 1988, the king renounced any rights to East Jerusalem and to the West Bank. That was a brave decision to take. And it put him in a very strong position later to urge for peace. And I recall when he was seeking a peace conference in the early 90s, I think about 1991, that turned out to be the Madrid talks. And that, in a year or so later, morphed into the Oslo talks. And both of those preceded the peace treaty that the king signed between Jordan and Israel. So there was a step-by-step process.
Sir John greatly admired the king's determination to include people with disparate views.
Now, the king did bring in people who had been violently opposed to him, and I think they understood how remarkable that was. Another example where you saw that, of course, was Nelson Mandela.
In the same year that King Hussein ascended the Hashemite throne, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi entered public life in South Africa. He has always felt a close affinity and warmth towards the king and admired him for delivering peace.
I think the important thing about his life is reconciliation. People who didn't speak to each other, were brought together by him. That takes remarkable courage. I think the foundation of it is courage. It's really a lonely journey in a way to pursue peace.
The king's reign was astonishing, combining peacemaking with the building of modern Jordan.
Literacy amongst his people, was about 33%, I think, when he took over. But it's now about 85%. So it's a remarkable thing that one was pursuing peace, but at the same time, he was doing this sort of thing.
When Paul, Mark and I went in to see His Majesty in state, we all burst into tears. He was a man for all people, and that's what he should go down in history as.
And it was never enough. He always wanted to do more. He wanted to resolve the internal tensions. He thought it was an unhealthy way to live. He enjoyed his life. He wanted other people to enjoy theirs. And I think, I can't say enough about it. He just had an incredible gift. And he inspired confidence and trust.
I think because he wasn't afraid to say what he thought, and he saw the bigger picture and to really want what was better for the world.
He could just break down barriers so easily and so smoothly because he felt no barriers.
But the determination and the passion with which he pursued peace is his major legacy to humanity.
He had courage, he had conviction, he had a lifelong commitment to peace, whatever the risks to himself may be. Few people have done that.
He was so much our life that we really thought he'd be there forever. But he was human after all. And for me, the brother he was, there can be no other person like him, and I think for many people as well.
I recall one thing that remained with me throughout many years was a total commitment to the cause of peace. We quarrel, we agree, we are friendly, we are not friendly, but we have no right to dictate through irresponsible action or narrow-mindedness the future of our children and their children's children. There has been enough destruction, enough death, enough waste And it's time that together we occupy a place beyond ourselves, our peoples, that is worthy of them under the sun. Rest assured that we will continue to strive to the best of our abilities to make our dreams come true, beyond what we have achieved so far. And we will get there, because that is what is right, that is what our people want, that is what they deserve, and God willing, and with God's blessings, that is what they will achieve. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The 20th anniversary of the death of King Hussein was commemorated by a prestigious event to celebrate his life and times at Oxford University.
The two personal qualities that stood out from my contacts with him were humility and humanity.
Distinguished speakers and members of the royal Jordanian family spoke about their memories and the legacy of the king. To mark this important event, personal messages from the King of Spain, the Prince of Wales, the Empress Farah Pahlavi, and the King of Jordan were shown.
His Majesty King Hussein of Jordan was, without a question, one of the most distinguished and charismatic leaders. The vision that inspired his reign was decisive in consolidating Jordan's national identity as a modern country. His heartfelt aspiration to bring peace to the region left an enduring mark on Middle Eastern politics. Following the tragic assassination of his grandfather, King Abdullah, to which he was a witness, King Hussein acceded to the throne at a very early age to reign over a young, fragile country in a difficult and tumultuous region. But his many qualities, especially his political instinct, his ability to combine courage with caution, attentive to both the dictates of circumstance and the love for his country and people, made him a true statesman with a capacity to lead Jordan to where it is today, a model of stability, moderation, and dialogue in the Middle East, and a country that enjoys credibility and trust within the international community. I had the privilege of meeting King Hussein and of spending time with him on many occasions during my childhood and my early adulthood, due to the friendship and great affection he shared with my father, King Juan Carlos, and the close relationship that always existed between our families. These abiding bonds of deep and true friendship are indeed very alive today in my and my family's close relationship with King Abdullah and all the Hashemite royal family. There are countless personal anecdotes and stories I treasure dearly that are so telling of this relationship. But let me just say that I will always revere King Hussein as a true example. His humility, charm, and strength, his loyalty, politeness, his generosity and understanding of the human nature are all qualities I admired in him, and he so powerfully and honestly was able to share with whomever he talked to and at any time, always accompanied by his deep, calm voice and a huge and disarming smile, one that no one can ever detach from the image we all carry of him in our minds and in our hearts. I recall that in 1999, barely months after King Hussein's passing, King Abdullah and Queen Rania made their first state visit to Spain. On that occasion, my father, King Juan Carlos, during the gala dinner held in their honor, paid a moving tribute to King Hussein, whom he affectionately referred to as my older brother, and for whom he professed the utmost respect and admiration. Some years before his death, in 1995, I had the honor of presenting King Hussein with the Prince of Asturias Award for Concord, recognizing his tireless quest for peace in the region. The 1991 Madrid Peace Conference could never have taken place without Jordan's unwavering support. And this conference marked an important turning point in the Arab-Israeli conflict, setting into motion a peace process that aspired to find a definitive settlement for the conflict. 20 years have passed since King Hussein left us. Today, we evoke the legacy of a key statesman, an exceptional mediator and peacemaker, a great king and a good man. And we pay homage to his legacy, which is more valuable now than ever in these times of unrest and uncertainty. Today, I also wish to reiterate the Spanish Crown's affection and support for the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, a country to which we feel especially close and with which we share the will and desire for peace, shared prosperity, and cooperation to become predominant features of the Middle East, just as King Hussein dreamed they would be. Today, we offer the Jordanian people this heartfelt tribute to his memory, expressing our deepest recognition and gratitude for his historic role.
"20 years has passed, and unfortunately, you are not among us anymore. You are in the hearts and minds of millions of people, including myself. I will always remember the very close relationship that existed between our two countries. I have always admired the generosity and humility that characterized your relationship with your people. Dear Sidi, I see your unforgettable smile each time I think about you, or I hear someone mention your name. I will always treasure the support and kindness you gave to my family and myself, Your Majesty. God bless your soul."
Throughout His late Majesty King Hussein's life, the histories of our two countries and of our monarchies were inextricably and remarkably bound together, as indeed they remain today. After 30 years of service to his nation, over a tumultuous period of the region's history, the founding King of Jordan, His Majesty King Abdullah I, King Hussein's grandfather, was tragically assassinated at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem as the 16-year-old Prince Hussein walked at his side. This was July 1951, just 6 months before my own grandfather, His late Majesty King George VI, himself passed away at such a young age after a similar lifetime of service to his country. The importance of service was a lesson King Hussein was to learn well and exemplify throughout the nearly 46 years of his extraordinary reign, which began when he was crowned king on the 2nd of May 1953, 1 month to the day before our own queen, my mother, was crowned in Westminster Abbey. King Hussein was to go on to lead his country throughout the second half of the 20th century with outstanding wisdom, judgment, and courage. Anecdotes abound of how, amid multiple assassination attempts of the sort which had claimed the life of his grandfather, King Hussein's personal courage, cool head, and sustained fortitude combined in a unique ability to inspire. Even more, those qualities were seen at their finest as he turned with his characteristic determination to the difficult, patient work of peace. But it is as a man, as well as a leader, that he remains so deeply respected, remembered, and loved, not only in his own country, but also far beyond, including in the United Kingdom and this city of Oxford. King Hussein had an almost inexhaustible source of compassion and human concern, on which he was able to draw for all in need. It was his love for the people of Jordan, his ability to listen, to empathize, and to connect, which marked him out. Having had the great joy of knowing the king over many years, I was always struck by the twinkle in his eye, his wonderfully playful sense of humor, which kept even the most serious matters in perspective, and the fact that amid the affairs of state, he had time to show such kindness to me. During the many times I had the privilege to meet him, his charm, grace, and immense courtesy, allied to his deep wisdom, were always so powerfully present, even when he was under the most intense pressure. It was my country's great good fortune and privilege to have had as so close a friend such a man, such a leader, and such a king dedicated to the service of his nation and to the wider good of mankind. We still miss him most dreadfully, but we celebrate all he gave us through his remarkable legacy. As I tried to sum it up at his memorial service in St. Paul's Cathedral, His late Majesty King Hussein was a man amongst men and a king amongst kings.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إخواني وأخواتي أبناء الأردن الغالي، 20 عاما مضت منذ أن غادرنا الحسين، الأب والقائد والإنسان، باني الأردن الحديث، فارس الدفاع عن الحق والعدالة وبطل السلام. غادرنا الحسين لكن إرثه ومبادئه راسخة، وأصبحت ثقافة فينا ونهج عمل. وشعار الحسين رحمة الله عليه: الإنسان أغلى ما نملك، كان هدفي على الدوام وبوصلتي في خدمة أبناء وبنات شعبي العزيز ومواصلة بناء وتطوير الأردن الغالي. وهو شعار ثابت ترجمه الأردنيون تضامنا صادقا فيما بينهم ومع الآخرين عندما احتضنوا بعهد العروبة والإنسانية الأصيل فينا الأشقاء بالرغم من الصعاب. واليوم نقول لروح الحسين الطاهرة: لقد أوفى الأردنيون، وما زلنا يا بطل السلام متمسكين بنهج السلام سبيلا لإنهاء الظلم التاريخي الذي وقع على الفلسطينيين، حتى نمنح أجيال المستقبل في منطقتنا الأمن الحقيقي والمستقبل الواعد الذي يستحقونه. وكما آمن الحسين أن الإسلام دين محبة وتسامح وعمل لا مكان فيه للتعصب ولا يقبل الكراهية. يستمر الأردن كما أراده الحسين رحمة الله عليه مدافعا عن الإسلام الحنيف، وفي المقدمة لمحاربة الإرهاب والتطرف ومواجهة خوارج هذا العصر. على مدى 20 عاما مضت أحيينا في كل يوم ذكرى الحسين الراحل الكبير، وسنستمر في ذلك، وندعو الجميع إلى الوفاء للحسين بالإخلاص والجد في العمل لتحقيق الإنجاز من أجل الأردنيين والإنسانية جمعاء. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.